You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
I swear this is not biased Ty Gibbs fan coming out to start the fast lane today. I don't know who believes me. Probably nobody from frontstretch.com, including our own Trey Lyle, who was with you, Ty Tracy, earlier today on the morning warm-up as y'all are together weekdays 7 to 8 a.m. But my issue with NASCAR right now is they had a wreck with 2 laps to go. They were not quite at the white flag for Sunday's street race at Chicagoland. Not Chicagoland, but Chicago. Not to be confused with Chicagoland, which is the formal oval that NASCAR used to use. I guess it still is an oval. I don't know if it even exists, but they haven't used it. But Cody Ware slams hard into one of the walls. Severe hit. Clearly looked bad. And there's audio of him that came out after the fact of him asking for help immediately. Now, fortunately, he was not only able to still be breathing and still be functioning and call for help and get out of the car, but he was able to speak with frontstretch.com after the race. And where my issue is more the safety side of things for NASCAR, because there's the whole Ty Gibbs angle, and we'll get into that in a moment here in the fast lane, because, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. There's a Ty Gibbs bias that I seem to have, or just flat out have. But there's the safety element for NASCAR that I think they deserve to be criticized. This is Cody Ware speaking with either Dalton Hopkins or Brian Nolan, not to be confused with Michael Massey, but either Brian Nolan or Dalton Hopkins of frontstretch.com after the race on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, especially given the speed of how fast we were, going into the barrier, obviously I'm not going anywhere and there's not much I can do at that point. But obviously at that point, I'm just focused on getting out of the car and getting to a safe spot. But, I thought it was a great race. I thought everyone was actually racing really good, really clean all day. For it being on a street course, I think everyone was on their A game.
What's amazing from Cody Ware is you can tell he's clear in thought. He clearly is in a position where he could have spoken with frontstretch.com after the race. But yeah, surprised. I mean, he was even candid about it. Now, I get it. You're a driver, and Cody Ware, he's a start and park guy. We used to call them kamikaze drivers, where in NASCAR fantasy, we would assign one driver that we thought would do poorly to our competitors, and it would generally be a bad driver. And Cody Ware would fit that type of description, the K driver, as we called him. Like, he is squarely that type of driver when it comes to his results in NASCAR. So I get the fact that, he addressed that he was surprised by NASCAR, but quickly pivoted away to criticizing them for not throwing the caution flag when he slammed hard. My issues are this. One, it shouldn't matter who the driver is, whether it's Chase Elliott, who's the most popular driver in NASCAR, or Cody Ware, who, if you're a casual listener to the Fast Lane, or if you're a listener to the Fast Lane, but a casual sports fan and a casual NASCAR fan, you're probably going, who the heck is that guy? Like, it shouldn't matter if you're NASCAR. So first of all, that's the issue. The other is the sport has made a lot of advances in safety, and people generally say that before criticizing NASCAR on a safety decision. It's kind of like, he's cute, but, or she's good looking, or she has a good personality, but, and you're about to say why you're not interested. Like, you've probably been down that road, or at least seen other people, Ty. You are laughing because you strike me as a good, honest, sensitive individual, and I am buttering you up for your girlfriend if she's listening to the Fast Lane, and we appreciate her being part of our audience. Yes, we do. I hope you're about to get some real brownie points, by the way. But you know what I'm talking about, right? When people compliment you because they're about to throw the negative jabs and they want to soften the blow.
Yes, I've been there several times.
So we've all been there, if we're really honest with ourselves, in some form or fashion. And if not, we have such a large ego that we can't look in the mirror and realize that we've been there in some form or fashion. Like, it's one of the two. It's, by the way, again, quick detour.
Time to take a detour in the fast lane.
I am not a perfect person, and my family is not perfect, and I have expounded upon challenges in my family, from substance abuse issues to, I went through a couple of year period where my parents and I were not really on speaking terms at all outside of, hey, you can come see the kids, that type of thing. We weren't on great speaking terms. And thankfully, we're back to where we have a good relationship now, and it's awesome, and I get to see them regularly, and, it's in a really good spot. But, that's an example for me, and some of our listeners who go way back with us in the Fast Lane know that. Others can go back and check, because
and guess what? We keep receipts.
at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts, we weren't on Facebook Live and YouTube when that happened. But where I look at it is, there's two types of families in the world, or people. There are families that have problems, and there are families that are lying to try to convince you they don't have problems, but they have problems. So that's one of the realities. Where I'm getting with this in NASCAR is, your leverage determines how critical you're going to be of NASCAR. By the way,
After Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the Fast Lane.
so back on the NASCAR discussion after that potentially unnecessary detour. Where we're going is, Cody Ware's not going to be all that critical of NASCAR, but we can be. Brian Nolan of frontstretch.com. Again, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts, including Facebook Live and YouTube if you prefer the video stream, because
And guess what? We keep receipts.
right there. But he mentioned that there's a lot of talk that the NASCAR decision to throw the caution flag was delayed because it was not made in Chicago, but it was made at the NASCAR headquarters. First of all, why are you doing this outside? Like, the safety people in NASCAR, there's got to be somebody that's there at the track that can make this decision. One of my golden rules, Ty, is if I'm smart enough to figure out the solution and it doesn't seem like it's that hard, you should be able to figure it out, because you can laugh. I don't think I'm the smartest person in the world. So if I can figure it out, then your NASCAR, employ somebody to be there. You've got a bunch of hotel rooms blocked off. Take advantage of it. Give them the stipend for the weekend, but put them there to throw the caution flag. Because if there's nothing else, you're not one who, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not going to be really getting into the weeds on who wins a race and who doesn't win a race. It's more, but you will take notice if somebody is seriously injured or, God forbid, gets killed. And thankfully, NASCAR has dodged that. And we hope and pray that continues to be the case, as they've done that for over 2 decades now since the Dale Earnhardt Sr. tragedy. It could happen at any point. We know there's dangers on pit road, in the car. For those that are competitors, it's part of what makes the sport appealing. But the injury is something that's going to capture the attention. If you're NASCAR, your goal needs to be to avoid that, and safety first. Throw the caution flag. It's not like this was a phantom debris caution that's out there and you're going, really? I don't see any, anything more than trash that just happened to blow onto the speedway. Like, this is legitimately a crash. And to me, again, Ty, you're the casual NASCAR fan, and I'm maybe even generous with that. If you think there's a crash to me seems like it would be a more reasonable scenario than anything else in the book, in terms of a fan that's casual to NASCAR like you going, okay, that might be worth slowing down the race.
Yeah, of course. Like, if we see a crash, that should be automatically caution flag. Hold on, we got to slow down the race real quick, because it's a crash. We got to see what's going on, make sure everything's okay, make sure the driver's okay, so we can make sure everything doesn't happen, so we have another effect like you said that happened 20 years ago.
And here's the other thing. Like, again, you watching replays of it on social media, or if folks are watching it live, again, to get my usher on for a moment, as is so often the case, I was listening on Motor Racing Network. MRN had the call, and I'll listen to PRN for the next couple of weekends when they take over for NASCAR broadcasts from races, Xfinity and Cup Series races. But, if we can figure it out that there's a hard crash by depicting it on the radio broadcast or seeing it on the TV, there's a level of common sense. And that's my issue with NASCAR on all of this. Because here's the thing. Ty Gibbs spoke after the race. There's the other competitive element. And I will get to this now because, again, full disclosure, Ty Gibbs, my driver, he has not won a NASCAR Cup Series race. He keeps getting closer, but I don't think he was all that close to winning on Sunday for a couple of reasons. If there was a chance, sure. And he wanted the green, white checkered finish, as he mentioned afterwards. He would like to have seen that caution thrown for Cody Ware's wreck. Selfishly, even though NASCAR really should have done it safety-wise.
Yeah, I would have been all for that 100%. But I think that 51 was like underneath the K-rail over there. So I don't know. It'd have been awesome, though. Would have worked in my favor.
It would have worked in my favor. Well, more than where he was. He was clearly behind Shane Van Gisbergen, and SVG got a great restart, and that's ultimately the big part to this. Ty Gibbs mentioned that he would have been more aggressive, and it would have made for fun entertainment. I just, as a Ty Gibbs fan, and again, no one's in the tank for Ty Gibbs more than I am, I don't think it would have mattered. Although, yes, a green-white checkered finish would have helped Ty Gibbs.
Well, it really depends on the restart zone because it's, right in that last corner, and the dude on the outside gets shafted every single time. If you watch every one of them, the inside guy wins almost every time. And he just got a good enough gap, had a good restart. I had a little bit of rear tire degradation that it didn't really help me on my launch as well off the corner. So I just got a good gap and got away from me.
That's Ty Gibbs. And what happened on the initial restart? And that, to me, is why I don't think Ty Gibbs would have caught Shane Van Gisbergen, even if they threw the caution flag at the end of that race on Sunday. Because SVG was just better on restarts. He is better driving the car, and he bought his time over the course of that race, knowing he's the best road course racer and knowing he had a car capable of winning. But he's a very mature driver in how SVG handled that race. He had moments where he slid back into the pack. He never panicked. He knows what he's doing. He's navigated Chicago. He's won 4 of the possible 5 times that he could have won an Xfinity Series or a Cup Series race at Chicago. The only time he didn't was when he wrecked out last year. And even Ty Gibbs, to his ever-loving credit, I know there's bias giving him credit here, but he admitted that through all the aggressiveness that he would have employed on SVG, he would have needed Shane Van Gisbergen to also have slipped up.
Yeah, I think if I got a better start, or the outside, the outside's the less preferred lane on the racetrack, also on the start, because it's just not as much grip. So maybe if he had a hiccup and had a, slide his right front tire, I could have maybe stayed the outside of him.
Maybe if he had a hiccup. I mean, again, that's as obvious as it gets. Ty Gibbs, again, he needs to win at this point to make it into the playoffs. And there will be other opportunities. I think of bubble drivers. He clearly has the equipment. He's clearly improved over the last 5-10 races of the NASCAR Cup Series season. There's a road course race coming up again at Sonoma. There's New Hampshire that's on the schedule. Dover has been a very good track for Joe Gibbs Racing. There are others that will be opportunities now and in the month of August where SVG could qualify, or where Ty Gibbs could qualify for the playoffs. But, I mean, he was going to need a slip up. I'll use an analogy for races that I've won before. There are times where I finished second or third in a race when I run. This past weekend, it was 6th. I would need a lot of people to have slipped up. But there are other times where it's second or third. And there are times where, okay, I would have loved to have taken advantage of it and just can kick myself. But there's some times where, like, it's a college runner, and that guy would have really had to have screwed it up for me to have had a chance to win. One of my favorite running stories of all time is, I finished third in a half marathon once, Ty, and I collected prize money. Like, not for sponsorship, but prize money. I finished 7 minutes in a half marathon behind the guy in second. And I really feel bad for that guy because he finished 7 minutes behind the guy who won the half marathon. Like, imagine being in second, like dominating. This is the best race you've ever had. And I've been there before. And you're like, I have a 0% chance of winning this thing. And I was in there in the Blue Ridge 10K, the part of the Blue Ridge Marathon where the guy who won was a former runner at Johns Hopkins. And I mean, I'd like to think I'm good, but I'm not that good. And when I'm talking about like elite high-end college runners, and this guy's in his mid-20s in peak form and just destroying that particular course, and I'm like, I'm in second, but this guy would need to have like lost both shoes for me to have a chance to win.
Hey, I mean, you came in second, but I wouldn't complain about it. And you won prize money too, so I can't complain about it.
Hey, I'm not complaining at all. I'll be glad to take it whenever it can. But, this was the race on Sunday. It was the same thing for Ty Gibbs. He was in second, but he really would have needed a screw up by one of the best road course racers that we've ever seen in NASCAR. But people do mess up on the highway, and that's why you need to remember Trost Law. They've been serving our community since 1982. That's over 4 decades. Or, as LeBron James would remind you,
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4.
well, yes, technically 4, a little bit over 4 if you want to be particular with LeBron James. But TrostLaw.com, 777-HURT. Now, we'll get back to feedback. We had some that's come in on the race at Chicago this weekend. We've also gotten some that's come in on Hugh Freeze' golf game that's out there, among others, and even one who heard our interview with Ian McCall a couple of weeks ago, and TJ's done a great job getting those sound bites posted to Fastlane Ed Lane on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and some new ones popped up on Instagram and Facebook today that have been up on Twitter recently, but TJ brought those up, and we've had some feedback on that. All that to come, 5:25, 5:30 today in the Fast Lane before a full Wimbledon recap with our chief vibes guy, Drew Dinsick, which is why we will not get to that, but we will get to some developments on grounds with UVA in...
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
The saga is kind of over for UVA. Thijs de Ridder, 6'8" Belgian star, 22 years old. This is the era in college sports in which we live where a 22-year-old has eligibility left, and Virginia's checking to see if they have multiple years of eligibility with Thijs de Ridder back. But he's at least coming to Virginia. He has now been officially declared, not officially, but the reports are there from all the reputable reporters like Jerry Ratcliffe, Preston Willett, Brad Franklin, and all those who cover UVA, that Thijs de Ridder, the 6'8" Belgian star, 22 years old, is going to be at UVA. There is still a question of how long he'll be eligible. That's one of the big hangups. There's also the whole visa situation and passports and everything that's being allowed to come into our country right now. For all the immigration news, the Virginia's Talk Station app and 100.9, because that's where you can be kept up to date better than we can chime in here in the Fast Lane. But for Virginia, first of all, it's an amazing world. Second, no, I don't blame them. If you're looking for market inefficiencies right now, having professional players, and people have mentioned this, but guys like Jaden Gardner, who played at UVA, played with Thijs de Ridder and are familiar with his game. And, I get it. Gardner was a Tony Bennett guy. That administration is largely out of Charlottesville with the insertion of Ryan Odom, but there's still a bond with UVA. I like this move, if nothing more than you're bringing international flavor. And for all of the wing type players that have come in with Ryan Odom, 3-and-D type guys, there's a lot of similarities in terms of length, athleticism, ball handling, pushing the pace at UVA. You still need some rim protectors. This addresses a big area. And in the ACC, where you're going up against like the Boozer twins at Duke, for example, who are athletically gifted, one of the better ways to counter that, Ty, is you're not going to have the same athleticism as guys that Duke have and probably other players in the ACC. But if you've got older players that have some kind of old man strength, if you will, that can be a hidden advantage.
I mean, yeah, I think we've seen it a couple of times with UVA. They did lack of athleticism on the wing, so I feel like this could be a good upgrade, a huge jump start, especially coming to the season for the 2025-2026 basketball season under Ryan Odom.
Yeah, I like it. It's good for Virginia. They need that. It complements a lot of the other pieces, and you can't just have athletic players, or else at some point you're going to flame out. Speaking of flaming out,
Number 4.
the opposite of that might be what's going on with a new podcast, Inside Virginia Athletics with Carla Williams. Look, I don't watch these things. You know my theory. We carry Virginia Tech coaches shows, and to me, that's the equivalent of state media. Now, there are a couple of times to get our usher on in the Fast Lane where we will play those sound bites from, when Mike Young or Brent Pryor in those coaches, shows on the Virginia Tech Sports Network that we air right here on the VTRN Sports app. But I don't generally pay attention. But if this is a step for Carla Williams to do even more media, where she was not familiar with it, and this gives her a chance to start learning how to interact, getting coached up on it, and then if she takes the next step, which is being more available to other media, and remembering that, yes, there'll be more confrontational questions, but David Teals and Mike Barbers are not the media members you're getting in Philly, New York, Chicago, Boston, where they're just sharks in the water. If this is a step towards that, this is a great idea. If this is all Carla Williams does, it can be a concern. But even, Whit Babcock has been more reluctant, but he'll occasionally do interviews with Andy Bitter of TechSideline.com or Damian Sordelet of NewsAdvance.com, or Roanoke.com, used to be with News Advance. Again, one for the virtual swear jar there. He'll be available for others. Carla just hasn't done that. If Inside Virginia Athletics with Carla Williams, the new UVA-produced podcast, is a step to getting Carla more comfortable, and she does more and makes herself more available for being interacted with by the media, articles being put out, connecting with the fans, it's great. If this is all she does, it's better, but it's not the potential that it could easily realize.
Number 3.
Speaking of UVA, they've announced that we'll begin offering complimentary admission to all men's and women's soccer, women's lacrosse, and softball regular season home games starting the 2025-2026 season. I'm a little surprised by this because the overall landscape of college athletics has generally been admission free for those particular venues. I will throw this out there. And this is one of my big complaints about just Virginia football. Like we get tickets for Virginia Tech football. A lot of them go to our advertising partners here in the Fast Lane. If you'd like to be part of that, fastlaneedlane@gmail.com or Facebook Live, Instagram, Twitter, however you want to message us. But for Virginia, it's been harder to get fans to venues. And if that's the case, they should have done this a while ago. Again, better late than never. But this is the type of thing you should be doing, because the objective should be get fans in and then get them to buy the marked up concessions. Like, if it takes free admission for something that's going to be $5, $10 to get into a venue, and you bring the family in, I mean, look, I'm going through it right now. Our kids just turned 7. If at some point they get hungry and you don't want to leave, you're going to cough up the money and pay the extreme markup on soda, food, snacks, maybe even merchandise. That's where your money is made. Virginia, frankly, should be begging us to get into their football games and make it easier. It's been a real challenge for that. We'd love to work with them, not opposed to it. But this is a step in the right direction again, but there's more that can be done from UVA's perspective. Speaking of steps in the right direction and things that should be taken into consideration,
Number 2.
the Big 12. Commissioner Brett Yormark has said that the 5+11 model is, quote, the right CFP format, as teams, quote, want to earn it on the field, end quote. Where this intrigues me is more, how does this position Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner that Ty and I will be hearing at the ACC football kickoff, gosh, is that 2 weeks from today when he speaks?
Yes.
It's going to be crazy. Ty and I are going to be down there in Charlotte. This is Brett Yormark stepping up. And the SEC's been fine with the 5+11. ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and the highest ranking group of 5, plus 11 at-larges. I like that more because it preserves the integrity as opposed to this guaranteed auto bid thing that Tony Petitti of the Big 10 would like to have. And we know that he wants people to know that he has lots of power. But the reality is Greg Sankey also has lots of power. And he does not like that idea. He was more in favor of the 5+11 model. I am as well. Sure, it'll mean more SEC and Big 10 teams than those from the ACC and the Big 12. And those conferences might end up with 1 as opposed to 2 and maybe an extra at large. But as a fan who just wants to ultimately see the best teams get in, I'd still prefer that particular model because at some point, Ty, I want it to be done based on what's happened on the field. And there's already going to be an advantage for Big 10 and SEC teams because they have more
dollar bills, y'all,
to accrue better players. So the odds are they're just going to be better teams. And if you trust that over the long haul, you don't need to guarantee extra bids when the percentages say those conferences are going to get them anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Like, for example, I'm like the same way. I want to see the best teams on the field or in the college football player. That makes me more excited. I don't want to see the same teams every single year. Like you said, it's SEC and the Big 10. So it's not fair for other teams in the conference. But I understand, like you say, you're in SEC and the Big 10, you got a lot of power and money talks.
It does. That's ultimately what it is about that particular direction. I think the one saving grace for those of us that like the 5+11 format is the SEC has been behind that format. And while the Big 10 wants a different one, Greg Sankey often knows how to get what he wants in college athletics. And I think there's a potential that you'll get that format because I do think they'll get to 16 teams because there's just more money that's at stake. And let's be real here. When college athletic administrators see a path to get more money, they go after it. Like
Number 1.
LSU plans to sell jersey patch advertisements pending NCAA approval. Here's a solution. If the NCAA doesn't grant it, this is another one of those flex moments for Greg Sankey, the SEC, because he's going to realize that LSU can make more money and then that other SEC schools can make more money. And get ready for this. You're going to start to see it at other locations. Could we have an InsaneRadioDeals.com logo on a Liberty Flames jersey in the near future? Never say never. Nothing it's likely to happen soon, but never say never. But the reality is LSU is the first one to try to pitch this idea of jersey patch advertisements, but in an era where everybody's trying to get as many
dollar bills, y'all,
as possible, you may think those jerseys look like trash, but the reality is ultimately money talks, as you just mentioned, Ty.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I would not be surprised if LSU pulls that stunt off because I can see that happening. Like, I'm surprised that never happened yet, like what's going on right now. So it's like, not surprised, but it's like, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised at the same time.
Yeah, I'm with you in that boat. I mean, I'm surprised it took this long, and I'm surprised that other schools haven't jumped on board, but I'm not surprised that LSU was the first, and I don't believe that they will be the last. When we return to the Fast Lane, speaking of the SEC, we've had feedback relative to that, to NASCAR at Chicago and what Shane Van Gisbergen did and whether a caution would have mattered. All of that when we return. Then 5:45, Wimbledon talk with our chief vibes guy, Drew Dinsick of the NBC Sports Bet the Edge podcast. The men's and women's odds to win the tournament look very similar. I don't think they should. Does Drew agree or disagree? We'll explain then, but a lot more still to come here in the Fast Lane.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer, locally owned for over 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Since we've been advertising with the Virginia Talk Radio Network, we've grown at Executive Maintenance, and we need more help. Are you a hard worker looking to earn some extra money? Executive Maintenance would love to speak with you. We're adding honest, trustworthy people who have their own transportation and a good attitude. We'll check your references, so make sure you're ready to bring the right attitude to Executive Maintenance. If you bring that, then we'll bring you up to par with the skills needed to excel. Call us today and learn more at executivemaintenancelynchburg.com.
Don Pedro's army has just returned home victorious after the war. Love is in the air, even as two of Shakespeare's most tumultuous couples exchange hilarious quips and damning accusations. Will the truth win in this mischievous game of love? Find out in End Station Theater Company at Randolph College's dazzling music-filled outdoor production of Much Ado About Nothing, running July 2nd through the 20th at Point of Honor. For tickets and information, visit endstationtheater.org.
When it comes to legal matters, there is no substitute for experience. Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. We've gained knowledge from serving Virginians for over 4 decades. Since 1982, we've handled auto accidents and personal injury cases ranging from simple fender benders to complex tractor-trailer cases. And we're ready to put our experience to work for you. We hope you never need our services, but if you do, just give us a call at 777-HURT or visit us at trostlaw.com.
Have you looked at your home's exterior lately? Do you see faded siding, paint peeling, and wood rotting? Windows that are impossible to open and close and gutters falling off? Call Collins Siding and Windows to transform your home's exterior and save you money on energy costs. Dreaming of a new porch or sunroom? Collins can do that too. Since 1989, Collins Siding and Windows has been transforming homes in Central Virginia. Roofs, windows, siding, gutters, porches, decks, and sunrooms. They can do it all. Call Collins Siding and Windows today, 434-525-6307.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us. Build with experience. Build with quality. Build with Right Choice.
Gorgeous blue waters, friendly people, the most beautiful island in the world. Getting to the Caribbean is hard, but experiencing it is easy at the Caribbean Jerk Pot. Yo, yeah, come enjoy the best taste of the Caribbean with simples like jerk chicken and oxtail, authentic season, hot, mild, spicy as you like. You can order from 1 to 7 p.m. weekdays on DoorDash or Grubhub, or browse the full menu at CaribbeanJerkPot.com and call us to spice up your private event at 434-426-4047. We'll come and bring the Caribbean taste to you.
Thank you for listening to VTRN Sports. As an appreciation, we're ready to reward one lucky listener each month with a $100 gift card to InsaneRadioDeals.com. It's simple. Take a photo of how you're listening to your favorite station, then send it to us at info@VirginiaTalkRadioNetwork.com, or tag us on Facebook, Twitter, or send us a DM, and you're entered to win. Winner will be announced on the first business day of the following month.
Head to Lynchburg-Hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTRN Sports.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
So one of our great listeners, Tsunami Tommy, is nicknamed Tsunami Tommy because, yes, make it rain, just like that song that brings us back into the Fast Lane. However, he's going to have to wait because we have other feedback that has come right now to kick off our fam feedback.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, it's time for fan feedback in the Fast Lane.
So last segment, we mentioned the race and Ty Gibbs. He would have benefited from a caution and a chance to catch Shane Van Gisbergen at the end, and NASCAR should have thrown the caution, not for Ty Gibbs, but because the wreck was really severe by Cody Ware with just over one lap to go, and because the white flag did not fly when the wreck took place, there should have been a caution, and there should have been a green-white checkered. But I don't believe it would have impacted the race ending because there was already a late restart, and Shane Van Gisbergen got such a great jump, and he's so good on road courses that I think he would have just done that again, and he would have waltzed to victory lane once more. Robbie agrees. He chimes in. No one's beating Shane on a road course at this rate, unfortunately. And I wouldn't go so much as the unfortunate, but I will go so far as to say this. Bet against SVG at your own peril if that's your thing. The numbers are so low that all it takes is some kind of fluke incident to unfold and knock Shane Van Gisbergen out of a race. And we saw it at Chicago last year at that road course. And we've seen other drivers win on road courses already. But he is a clear favorite and deserves to be on street races in particular, but even road courses. He is the standard right now in a way that Jeff Gordon was back in his heyday. And other drivers have gone through this, but I don't think to quite the level of domination when you're winning by 6, 12, 15 seconds, the way we've seen SVG go about that. Other feedback that has come in. There's a lot of talk that's been out there. And one of these underlying thoughts has been, I'll go here in the fast lane for a moment. If Jamie Chadwell were to leave Liberty University, and I'm not saying he's going to, he seems very happy for a group of 5 job again. It was reported $4 million when he left Coastal to take the job at Liberty. That 5x'd his pay. And even if they gave him a raise, it would have been like quadrupled his pay from, $1 million or ish to $4 million. And he probably has gotten some extensions, especially after the season to the Fiesta Bowl. I don't know it. Liberty doesn't have to divulge that. They're a private school, but, and they don't go on the record with that type of details. But let's just presume that he were to leave. There's an undercurrent of people that would wonder whether Hugh Freeze would come back. And it's like the most interesting thing because Freeze is on the hot seat at Auburn. Like his seat is very hot. When you look at coaches that better win this year or else, I put him ahead of even Tony Elliott at Virginia and Brent Pry at Virginia Tech. And yes, I'd like to see more out of those coaches. They've been at their schools longer here in Virginia than Freeze has been at Auburn. Remember, the second to last game Freeze coached at Liberty was against Brent Pry in his first year at Virginia Tech. Hokies won because, Freeze was distracted apparently. But here's the thing. They were less patient down in the SEC. And one of the big concerns now has been Hugh Freeze golfing. I got this feedback from West Coast super fan Ben, who's a big fan of ours. And he's got, somebody that plugged into him this note. about Hugh Freeze. The concern is that he has spent a ton of time golfing and that it is taken away from actually focusing on being the CEO of Auburn Tigers football. Now, I don't know Hugh Freeze personally. I was never part of his golf circle here in the Lynchburg area, but the comment was this: nobody really and truly cares if Freeze golfs. Being a college football coach is hard. The calendar sucks and there's really not any real downtime. It's a demanding job that never sleeps. It's like couching it. That being said, aka but, I think the real issue is that he just seems to be such a damn moron. You played so much golf that a state media outlet did a story on it and then had to do an update after posting it because you played again. After 2 losing seasons in a recruiting class in the 60s, Freeze has had a history of being a poor decision maker for a long time, and it seems to coincide with his in-game decision making as well, which should be concerning to everyone. The dude just doesn't make smart choices on or off the football field. Truthfully, I don't think there were bad decisions when he was at Liberty, but when it comes to the pressure cooker of the SEC and Auburn, I think it's more this. I don't blame Hugh Freeze for leaving for Auburn. His dream has been to coach in the SEC. He was always going to leave Liberty at some point. Yes, said by the people that were ahead of that story more than anybody else. I get there's some self-bragging coming on here in the fast lane. And there's less pressure to perform at Liberty. But this is a guy where I think if you're criticizing the golf outings, it's more the awareness of it and what you could get away with in Lynchburg and with Liberty that's harder to get away with elsewhere. Like I've heard from people, take this for what it's worth, that Freeze still golfs in the greater Lynchburg area at one of the more prominent golf courses. They're not an advertiser of ours, but they're just a couple of them. So you can kind of put deductive reasoning there. And I think you have to be a member at this place anyway. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I've actually had one person that I've called on in sales. And this person also golfs at said golf venue. And I'll just never forget the conversation I had with that person. And I mentioned, yeah, there are a lot of people out there that are upset because Hugh Freeze had those Thursday golf outings. And the comment the guy made back to me was, Thursday, try every day, which means a lot of what Freeze's time has been dedicated to reportedly is golfing. Now, here's my thing. If he were to even come back to Liberty, and fans have wondered that, and I think a lot of fans just don't want it because of the way he left, and on top of that, the golf stuff and everything else, they wouldn't want him back. But if you take out the ends, he had a really good run at Liberty, and he clearly had a high level of talent that he knows how to acquire and bring in and is very connected in evaluating that and bringing it to a program. But the question is, would he treat it like a job or would he treat it more like a retirement gig where there's a minimal amount of effort that goes into that particular job? And that's a real legitimate concern that if you're Liberty and Ian McCall, you would have to vet. The other thing is this. Jamie Chadwell is a great fit for Liberty. I think as long as he wants to stick around, the opening's not popping up. And there may be other coaches that you would consider, but I will say this. What you can get away with at Liberty University, and if he came back, I think he could. Like, he knows how to run a program, and a lot of people praised Freeze for his CEO-type approach to leading Liberty University football. And he had a great job. They were better when he left than when he took over. I think you have to remember that in the Hugh Freeze discussion at Liberty University. It's also worth mentioning that things that he does at Liberty and did at Liberty, the golf in particular, he could kind of get away with it. He knew how to build the program. He got into a real strong point. And now that they're in Conference USA, they will still have more money than anyone else in the conference and still be set up to win. And Hugh Freeze could have a roster that looks SEC caliber, which Jamie Chadwell's I don't think does. I think the pieces might actually fit together better and they have a better chance to be more consistently dominant. But I think those are all legitimate concerns for those that would be more skeptical of Hugh Freeze ever coming back to Lynchburg.
I'm just saying, like, does it bother him, like, Hugh Freeze playing golf? Like, can he just do something for his own time, play golf? Like, dude, relax. It's not that serious.
Like, my other thing, though, is this, that Freeze would even apparently fly from Auburn back up to the Lynchburg area because he likes golfing and he's trying to get away from that type of scrutiny and criticism. Now, he made the conscious decision to go down there. You take the job, you take the money, you know what you're getting into. But I would say this. I think in Lynchburg, people are much more relaxed, and I think it would be fine as long as he's committed, if he were to ever come back to coach at Liberty, to running the program the correct way. And, again, results were by and large good at Liberty. I don't dispute that. I think it's just the type of thing that you have to ask the question and not be worried that Freeze would get offended, that you have to ask the question if you were to bring him back. You have to ask about his departure, and you'd also have to ask, if Freeze were to ever come back, and again, right now I think Liberty's in a great spot. If Jamie Chadwell wants to stick around for a while, you shouldn't push the guy out the door. He got you to the Fiesta Bowl for crying out loud and had an undefeated regular season. And last year we knew there were chemistry issues, but I think a lot of that's going to get resolved for the Flames this year. But when it comes to Freeze, the pressure is much lower here. I get why he would take the money in the SEC. I get scratching the itch, but I also get why people would be concerned as to whether this thing lasts a long time at Auburn, because you have to be so much more buttoned up and attention to detail at a place like that. And this isn't a knock on Freeze, but I think he likes being more hands-off. And in an SEC program, you've got to be so maniacally on point. The Saban effect, it literally is that case where all these coaches are so wired, so pressured, and seemingly miserable a lot of the time. And Freeze seems to want to be the coach where he can actually have a life. And I think at Liberty you can, so I don't think it's an issue, but I think it's just something where I get why he would take the Auburn job, but I also don't, I think it's fair to say, is it going to work out well, just given how the SEC functions compared to anyone else?
And plus, you got to think about he's at Auburn. Between Ole Miss and Auburn, Auburn's like a higher step than Ole Miss. It's nothing against it. It's the SEC school, but Auburn is a higher step up than Ole Miss.
100%. I agree with you. As great as Lane Kiffin has done at Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze did as well, they beat Alabama twice. Auburn has won national championships before, including in our lifetime with Cam Newton. Ole Miss has not come close to that. Auburn has routinely made deeper appearances in the playoff and had deeper and higher level of success making national championship games as well. Ole Miss just hasn't been there. I think it's a great point as well. We'll hold Tsunami Tommy's comments for later because they are still relevant. When we return, our Chief Vibes guy. What of these look the same and shouldn't be? We'll answer that question on the Wimbledon odds to wrap up the Fast Lane after this on the VTRN Sports app, and ask that smart speaker open VTRN Sports.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer, locally owned for over 50 years. ID1 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Hi, I'm Chuck from Aquatrack Adventures in Salem. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com have helped our company grow by sharing our company's message throughout Central and Southside Virginia. The gift cards and experiences sold on InsaneRadioDeals.com have brought us many new customers. If you're a business that wants to grow with a message that resonates and gets results, I highly recommend InsaneRadioDeals.com and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Simply put, it works.
This fall, Saturdays belong to the Hokies.
Oh, and these Hokie fans are going crazy here in College Town, USA.
Lane Stadium, electrifying, iconic, the best in college football.
Oh, you'd have to be here to believe it.
Built by tradition and fueled by passion.
Breaks free at the 10, to the 5, touchdown Tech.
Where every roar and every cheer brings you home. Are you ready to start jumping? Tickets on sale now. Visit Hokiesports.com.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real technology so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Pull up a seat and join our conversation. Around the Table with Vicki is my new local radio show and podcast discussing leadership, entrepreneurship, philanthropy, faith, and family.
So obviously in entrepreneurship, there's a lot of challenges, that people only typically talk about all the great things, but there's also a lot of challenges with entrepreneurship and sacrifice and lessons learned. So what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced throughout business, and how did you overcome them?
Good question. I think this sounds
sort of crazy, but when you're young and you're in you get a couple things in a row that work for you, you get this mentality that you can just accomplish whatever you put your mind to it. And there's a lot of truth to that. And, if you push yourself and, maybe you don't know everything, but you learn, you read, you surround yourself with folks that can help you get to that point, you just keep struggling. You get knocked back sometimes. You don't achieve your goal. Something doesn't happen in the time frame that you want. You just keep going. Mm-hmm. I know there was times where I always had these, I'm a goal-driven person where I make a list every night of what I want to do. And,
you do.
And, then you get to work and things happen and they don't get done. But
you come home and say, I didn't get anything done on my list.
So, yeah. but it helps me know what my focus is.
Around the Table with Vicki, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on WIQO.
Car insurance rates are rising rapidly. That's no secret. It's because the cost of medical care for those who are injured and the repair and replacement cost of damaged vehicles is skyrocketing. But what can you do about it? Hi, this is Judd Gardner with Gardner Insurance Solutions in Lynchburg. We've been helping Central Virginia drivers purchase the coverage they need at affordable prices since 1993. Talk with us before you pay again. We represent numerous companies and have many cost-saving strategies. Gardner Insurance Solutions, 434-316-5433.
Look good, feel good. Feel good, play good. Sure, primetime people say that all the time. And InsaneRadioDeals.com is bringing that to life with a special now through Monday, July 14th. Buy 2 items and get a third of equal or lesser value for free. That includes B&C Sports gift certificates, good for the latest apparel, and good at the River Ridge Mall in Lynchburg or Valley View Mall in Roanoke. Plus, a CFRide.com club memberships. So shop 24/7 at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Certain restrictions still apply.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
So at the beginning of Wimbledon, the vibes were electric with exhilarating tennis. Now the vibes are crazy because if you're looking at the odds board, there's some similarities between the men's and women's odds as we're about halfway through the quarterfinals at Wimbledon. They will continue tomorrow, and then semifinals start to unfold after that. So who better than our chief vibes guy of the NBC Sports Bet The Edge podcast, as well as the deep dive with Andy Molitor. We're not going to get to the football stuff yet. Drew Dinsick, as we welcome you back into the Fast Lane. First of all, we hope and pray you had a safe trip to Napa, that everybody enjoyed themselves, and that you're able to dissect these weird odds where both the women and the men feature a clear-cut favored. Is it just me? This is where you get to school me here, Drew. The men's, I get Carlos being a big favorite. But Sabalenka, even in her 2 sets to love victories, has not looked overwhelming. Today, she could have easily been defeated. Should she be the prohibitive favorite on the women's side as well?
I guess I get her being the favorite, but the prohibitive part is where I stopped in my tracks. Her semifinal match against Anisimova is going to be relatively more straightforward than either of the potential finalists from the bottom half. That is to say, I expect Iga and Mira, your 2 favorites tomorrow, to come through cleanly. But then that head-to-head semifinal, that's war. That is a really, really close match. So I get only one of the 2 of them is going to win. And so for those reasons, the math just works out that, Sabalenka is probably through. I have her at 64% to beat Anisimova. And then, you're basically starting at 50-50 with your competitor, your challenger. And market's going to give you favorite for Sabalenka in the final proper. So I guess, ultimately the math works out pretty reasonably, but I'm still against Sabalenka. She made an absolute mess of what was a pretty straightforward, opponent today. And I say straightforward, a little bit tongue in cheek, Siegmund is just an all-time pest on the court. The way she kind of elongates, particularly her return, just being ready for your opponent to serve, kind of unlocks a little bit of a mental advantage for her, even if her game is not as strong. But Sabalenka has the tools to just, kind of completely unlock that style of play. And it took her deep into the third to really kind of wrestle control of that match, which was surprising. And just in general, like Sabalenka hasn't played a lot at Wimbledon over her career. This is really only her second deep run here. She missed 2 years with the ban. They didn't play it 1 year because of COVID, and then last year she missed with a shoulder injury. So she's just has a lot to prove, I think, relative to what I would expect from her. Certainly in Australia, at the U.S. Open, and to a lesser degree at Roland Garros. So, this, even though the conditions suggest she should be excellent here, this has always kind of been sort of the fourth of the 4 slams where I would expect her to ultimately find success. And if she does it in her first run, then hats off to her. It just kind of proves the dominance she has on tour right now. But I think she's going to have a fight on her hands in the final. And I'm guessing it's going to be, at the behest of Miss Iga Swiatek, and, putting her a minus number next to her name, considering how much more tennis she has left to play and win, doesn't exactly check out to me.
Well, yeah, that's the thing for me. I am okay with Aryna Sabalenka being the favorite. You mentioned her path to the final looks easier, so that part in and of itself just makes sense. But being a prohibitive favorite against the field, it looks different. We'll get to the men's side in a moment. You mentioned Iga. If I'm not mistaken, you've got a future on her. I will get my usher on for a moment in the fast lane. I have one on Mira Andreeva that I really didn't think was going to do much, and now all of a sudden here we are with a chance that maybe it does come through. You mentioned there being a war in that regard. Sabalenka is the clear favorite. After that, it's Anisimova, whom congratulations to you on having her to win her quarter. Go Drew on that one. Andreeva and Swiatek. By the way, your quarter looked better than mine with Haley Baptiste. I went to St. John's Episcopal Church this weekend because Baptiste churches were clashing with those still right now. It just never happened. But if it's all at the expense of Andreeva, I guess I can be okay. Do you give her a legitimate chance against Iga? Is that as close to a coin flip matchup, presuming both of them get to that matchup with wins tomorrow?
Yeah, and I guess just kind of minor step back. If the theme of week 1 was like chaos, upsets, everyone good's losing, what's happening? Like the tide turned today. Like we had a chalky day today. I think it's going to be chalky day tomorrow. And I would be very, very surprised if Iga and Mira are not our semifinal head to head in the bottom. And it is, again, like I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting myself a little bit, because in the same way that we have never really seen Sabalenka kind of fully put together and run here, we certainly have never seen Mira do it either. But just the disparity in terms of their ages was what matters the most to me here, because seeing someone in kind of Mira's age bracket who's learning to become a professional, who has touch and power, and ultimately starts to figure out how to apply her exquisite skill set to the grass courts. We're seeing it in real time, and she's putting it all together, and absolutely, like, the results are checking all the boxes. And this is going to be her toughest test to this point in Belinda Bencic, because Bencic is a savvy veteran and her best surface is grass, and she has made deep runs here before. So this is going to be a challenge for her. But Mira, to me, is definitely kind of the sleeping giant between these 3 that we're talking about at the top of the draw, or the top of the odds board, because Iga is a solved problem. Like, her game has changed a little bit. Her coaching approach, all of it is slightly different now than it was in years past. She obviously hasn't had the success on tour that we're used to seeing from her, and so in that regard, people may look and kind of ascribe a pretty significant downgrade to her rating. But she's effectively a known quantity. Sabalenka is a pretty known quantity as well. Her hold and break numbers have been static across most surfaces for a long time now. Like, she is just flat out awesome. We know exactly how to price her. Mira, we don't. She's an unsolved kind of quantity in terms of how good is she against the peak players on this surface. Can she, kind of prove that, yes, she is, the princess who was promised as far as like, really kind of getting to a slam at a time in her progression that is way earlier than anyone, usually gets here. Like, it is not lost on me that Mira Andreeva is she's a unique handicap, because it has been probably since Serena, unless I'm forgetting someone obvious. It's been since Serena, since we had like someone who was at sort of late teenage year stage, kind of be able to sustain this kind of top 4, top 5 type of performance. And, Mira's had her ups and downs, surely, but she has a phenomenal coach and a phenomenal relationship with her coach in Conchita Martinez. If the name Conchita Martinez sounds familiar, it should. She won Wimbledon in 1994. So she brings the experience of what it takes to win this title to the team, as far as, kind of guidance and mentorship. I think anyone who is just in awe and surprised if Mira ultimately lifts this trophy, like, you haven't been paying attention, because she absolutely has the skill set to win this. And if it's not this year, it'll happen. Like, I have higher confidence that at some point Mira will win Wimbledon, more so than the likes of an Iga, maybe even more so than the likes of the Sabalenka, despite the fact that we could be a couple of days away from that actually being the case, right? So, I would say that Andreeva's game, to me, is sort of perfect for this being her sweet spot in terms of championship. Now, when players like Mira, in terms of age and progression, break through, it's usually in the U.S. Open, and that's not an accident, because number one, they are usually pretty comfortable on hard courts first, and the clay and or grass is a little bit of, we have to adjust. I have to figure out how my game works here, grass especially. And then in general, you usually see breakthroughs at the U.S. Open, because the top players on tour have played so much tennis by the time we get there, that there's like a fatigue angle that really does kind of open the door for surprises where the best don't really get to the end all the time, right? And so that does open the door for the breakthroughs. But if you said in the blind, news alert, like, Mira's done it, she's a Grand Slam champion, tell me what slam we're at, my first guess would be Wimbledon, just because of the way her skill set, to me at least, looks like it is kind of perfect for this particular setting. So this isn't to say you should get too excited that Mira ticket's actually going to get there, but do not be surprised if it happens, because we've seen more consistency from her than Iga. And again, like, her skill set suits the conditions more appropriately, I think.
To the men's side we go with Drew Dinsick, who has been breeding in a little bit of hope here in the fast lane to me with Mira Andreeva. But you've tempered that. Hey, if Eagle wins, I'll be rooting for you. But I'm, again, hoping that Mira Andreeva can get through and I can add on. Not that it matters.
Before we move off, if the money line price for Andreeva in that matchup is like plus 150 or plus 175 or something like that, which is kind of where the market is sort of placing them right now, I might just check out entirely. It might be pull the ripcord. Like, there may be no more, like, let's get off the Iga bandwagon and get on the Mira bandwagon. Price is really going to determine that one. And I don't know what price you ended up getting on Mira, but I do think there is a world where parlaying her semifinal money line, final money line could probably get you kind of in the ballpark of 5-1, 6-1, which I think is a fun way to exit this tournament.
It would be nice to add on. I got her at 13-1 actually.
That's a great bet, man.
And just saw it, and I'm like, this girl's got enough. And You can criticize the strategy here. The Fast Lane, W227BG, Timberlake, WVGM, AM, Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside, in the Virginia Talk Radio Network. You can criticize it, but my thought was just she's probably going to win a Grand Slam at some point in the next year. So I grabbed her for that, plus the hards at all double-digit 10-1 odds or better. And you know what? One of these is going to hit, and if one of them hits, we're good. So if it's now, even better. If we have to wait, so be it. Speaking of maybe going overboard on the men's side, I had Carlos at plus 170 a few months ago. I had Carlos to win 2 Grand Slams this year at, I think 4-1, 5-1 at that, because I just thought French and Wimbledon was a good chance. And, there's a real good chance. And because I'm so psychotic, I threw 3 more units on him at about plus 130 to win this. And I mean, am I overboard? Should I be thinking about backing out? Or at this point, is he justifiably such a big favorite and ride this thing out until the end?
Ed, what's going on with the market here? Why isn't he more of a favorite? That's
160.
I just don't. I mean, did people not? People were too preoccupied today. They didn't watch. They didn't watch what was happening out there. He is playing at an absurdly high level. And if you want to kind of poke holes at what you saw last week with him kind of dinking around and fluffing around with Fabio Fognini. Oh, okay, sure, but he's locked in right now. I really do not know who is taking him down in this field. In the last 24 hours, you got confirmation that Alcaraz is razor sharp. You got questions swirling about Djokovic in terms of what is his ceiling and his ability to find kind of a super high level, as he was kind of very mercurially up and down against Demon Hour. And maybe most importantly of all, there are now real questions swirling about if Sinner is even going to get there. I think he's fine. I think he will, but if in any way, shape, or form he is not 100% in that matchup, Alcaraz is going to eat him for lunch. And I think ultimately this is, the market is just slow, sleepy, not really kind of fully, kind of synthesizing the state of the draw right now, because I may be giving Fritz short shrift, but his game's it's just not dynamic enough to get the better of Alcaraz. And Sinner may be totally and completely fine, but his forehand was down 5-6 miles per hour for most of that match yesterday against Dimitrov, which really was kind of a huge reason that Dimitrov was so dominant for huge portions of that match. So consider me the one who is still scratching their head every morning looking at the board and wondering why Alcaraz isn't getting shorter, because I think this is ultimately his title to lose. Every match will be on his racket. And as we saw at the French Open, when he comes up against someone who is having an amazing day and is performing at an extremely high level, he is able to take his game up that much more. So I don't know that you're getting your 2 slams if he doesn't win this one, because the hard court advantage really is pretty clearly in favor of Sinner. I don't live in a world where I wouldn't make Alcaraz minus 200 or better against Sinner in the final here.
Well, fantastic. I mean, this is all good information to hear, Drew. Last one for you, and we'll kind of tie this together on presuming it's Sinner versus Djokovic in the semis, although the market's reacting like, there may be more concern with the Sinner injury than people have been letting on. Is the one concern for Alcaraz that, there is a serious injury to Sinner? Maybe he doesn't even get to the semis, and then at that point, Djokovic doesn't have to worry about it, and he can be hopped up on every pain medication and Red Bull imaginable and be like, you know what? I may crash and burn, but this is Novak's last stand ever, regardless of what happens.
Yeah, you're scaring me a little.
I'm scaring myself.
I guess in full transparency, because I don't remember if we talked Olympics last year or not, but I went down big time with Alcaraz in that gold medal match. I thought he was surely going to get the better of Djokovic on clay at Roland Garros because he was so much fitter then than he was when he won the Roland Garros title like 2 months earlier. Like his elbow injury was completely healed by then, and he was just coming off of an absolute undressing of Djokovic in the Wimbledon final last year. Like that was not a competitive match, if you remember. And I thought, well, this is not, he's got him now. He solved him. Like these problem, game over. And the level we saw from Djokovic in that gold medal match was pretty special. And I would say that in hindsight, it was like, we knew that this was sort of the one thing he didn't have was a gold medal. And when he was that, kind of specifically focused and driven, he was able to produce a quality of tennis that was enough to get him the win in two tie breaks that day. And, he is so experienced and so savvy and such a tremendous strategic master on court in a match that he can definitely beat Alcaraz, no question. If he's feeling 100% physically fit, he can. And most of my I'm not concerned about Djokovic. It's been because he's on the same side of the draw as Sinner, and I think he has a huge problem solving Sinner's game. Whereas he can solve Alcaraz, he can't really solve Sinner from the style of tennis that I've seen them play. So I would say that if Sinner is limited and Shelton comes through, and then Djokovic dispatches Shelton in straight sets and is relatively unscathed in that final, I'll be losing a little sleep on Saturday night into Sunday morning, for sure. I got a big Alcaraz position to win this championship, and I want Sinner in whatever state he's in. Send him my way. And if it's a big time physical, I'm expecting it to be a big time physical, difficult semifinal match between those two men. And that being a huge part of this handicap. And if it's not, then certainly the paradigm has changed.
Oh, it completely changes. And, at that point, you're sitting there going, I'd be looking at, can we get a Novak to win plus Novak to retire after the match at like some kind of exotic bet? Because I would take that and be like, you know what? This might be I'm never going to get this again. Let's just ride out of this while we can. Because I don't see if you can correct me if I'm wrong, if Novak has to go through a fully healthy Sinner and then Alcaraz on top of that, it is a Mount Everest climb. If one of those gets knocked out of the way, all of a sudden you can basically like the Wimbledon, like the Olympics last year, just basically say, hey, I've got 5 to 6 hours in this body. We're going to mask every pain and ailment we have. And, the devil will collect his due at another time.
Yeah. There are people who I've talked to who know sport well, who were athletes themselves, and they'll be like, it's round 4 of a Grand Slam. Of course they're giving 100%. No, they're not. No way. Like there is no way that every point of every match, Novak Djokovic is giving 100%. He is very carefully meting out how much effort he has, how much damage he's going to take, so that when he gets to some sort of obstacle, he has the best possible chance of clearing that obstacle. And I think the general setup there was correct. If he's not tested in the semifinals, then it's game on. And anyone that was watching Sinner Dimitrov probably had not a great ultimate feelings leaving that match. It was a very tough hang. The vibes were not great, Ed. They were not great. One of the things that really, really contributed to that injury was Dimitrov was going for it. He was serving 5-6 miles an hour faster than we've seen him serve since like January, right? And so shockingly, he has a pec injury on the arm that is responsible for creating the power of his serve. And it's like, he was going to leave it all on the court that day, and he did. And like, if Djokovic comes with that same mentality in a final against Alcaraz, you're talking 5 sets. You're talking whoever can produce the magic in the high leverage moments is ultimately going to walk away with as your winner. And I'm old enough to remember him doing it to Federer, and it wasn't pretty. The whole that match was not. That was not a classic in the sense that you could just flip on and watch an hour and be fully entertained. There were large swings of ups and downs from both players in that one, but in the end, at 14-12, I think it was 13, maybe 13-12. 2 championship points saved by Djokovic, and in both of those points, it was one of them was clearly like Federer was in his own head, but Djokovic put him there. And there's plenty of there are going to be demons, or at least kind of voices in Carlos's mind about I wasn't able to beat Djokovic in those tie breaks at the Olympics. I know I've beaten him here twice in the last 2 Wimbledons, but if it goes to a 5th set, all bets are off.
They are. We'll see if it gets there in your mind, your world and mine. We just get a nice little banged up Sinner versus Carlos and maybe some 3 loves.
We're cheering for bad tennis.
We are. We want blowouts, Drew. We want blowouts. We may be the only ones. The mothership may not like it, but I don't care.
Yeah, that's the right way to put it.
Indeed. Drew, thanks for bringing the good vibes as always today in the Fast Lane. Once I start diving into your podcast on the NFL previews, we'd love to get you back on for that and maybe sneak in some talk. DC Open's coming up, and that is prime lead up to the U.S. Open as well, and would love to get you back on as we always do here in the Fast Lane.
Yeah, fantastic. Always great talking to you. Best of luck, and let's finish out as winners.
Indeed. Deuces to Drew Dinsick and deuces to you today in the Fast Lane. We appreciate the time of everybody as always. Now here comes the fun announcement. I'm getting ready to fly to Portland tomorrow, so I'm off Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. TJ and Ty will be taking over, and I'll be back with you next Monday here in the Fast Lane. In the meantime, be well, and we'll chat soon.
Into the evening, tonight partly cloudy, lows near 70, clouds and sun Wednesday.